Daily Solutions Podcast.
Alrighty, beditey, everybody. Here we go with today's question. So the one coming in is, I'm looking at a pretty small space for a 4-tank center, a little over 1,000 square feet. How small is too small?
How small is too small? Okay.
So, I mean, we started our Float On with 4 tanks and a little under 1,000 square feet.
Yes, which was too small.
It was that was not big enough.
It was too small. So that small is too small. I think I can say that.
So, I guess the things that you don't have space for that you might think that you do as you're building out are things like storage for just about everything that you can throw in the float tank center.
Yeah. I mean, that's really the one that took us the most by surprise. Storage and a back workspace. You know, we'd figured out we wanted the rooms to be a certain size because the float tank has to fit in there. So and we still screwed that up. It'd be nice to have a little bit more room around the filtration system when you want to go
That's what I was going to say for point number 3 too, was just the ability to actually access your pump system.
All right, well, let's hold on for point number 3 then. Let's start with point number 1.
Storage.
Okay, storage. So storage, you just need a bunch of stuff. It's surprising how much stuff you need for a business that's focused on nothingness. It's insane. The salt is huge, right? The more salt you can buy, the cheaper you get it. So that's a big chunk of things, and we just started putting salt into our lobby, just making giant salt stacks all around the lobby
salt
area.
furniture that people can sit in.
That's right. Yeah, salt people working the front desk.
And then the other thing, really, honestly, it's a lot of space in order to do the types of cleaning that you need to do, right? So things like actually cleaning off all of the neck pillows in between every person and sanitizing them. That actually takes a lot of space to allow them to dry.
Yeah.
An area to dump your filters into a big filter soaking area and let those both soak and then leave room for them to dry afterwards.
Definitely way more I guess utility sink space. I did not realize how much having a giant awesome utility sink was the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah, we started with a very, very tiny utility sink, which we later upgraded to a slightly larger but still small 1-bay utility sink. And that was not nearly enough.
No, we're still, we have a nice 3-bay stainless steel utility sink with wings on either side of it. And I still kind of want it to be bigger. I want, 12-bay, you just have a giant, huge utility sink running the entire expanse of a wall. It sounds awesome to me.
When your staff needs to take a break, they just go chill out in one of the utility sink bays.
Yeah, one just has Otter Pops in it waiting for you. Just totally decked out.
So 1,000 square feet is not enough to make any of that happen.
Yeah, so just forget about that space.
And so what was point number 2? Other than storage.
Okay, so we had storage. Point number 3 is on its way.
You're the one who said point number 2.
I said point number 2?
All right, so point number 3 was being able to move around your pumps and actually be able to access them and do pump-related repairs and things like that. And even now, that we have a little more room per float space that we have in our facility, it's still a little tight. It's one of the biggest things that we recommend a larger space for, is actually being able to do everything that you'd want around your pumps. And right now it takes us, a couple hours to actually disconnect all of the parts that tie into a single pump system, just because we have to unhook everything that's above the pump in order to get down to it. And it's all kind of stacked and compressed in a way that takes up the least amount of space possible.
For sure. And it's not enjoyable either. It's not just that it's time consuming. It's kind of the idea of going to do something on your pump is oh man, okay, I'm going to have to sit crooked and twist my arm back behind this thing for 2 hours to unscrew this bolt. It's not really enjoyable work.
No, so that was point number 3.
Point number 2, I'll make up point number 2. So point number 2 is the extreme circumstances where you need to get a float tank in and out of a room or down a hallway. Those are moments where you really appreciate space. Being able to have enough space to have a 5-foot hallway instead of a 4-foot hallway, or slightly bigger doors or something like that. Comes in real handy when you're trying to navigate a 8-foot or 9-foot tub around a corner. And so it doesn't come up very often, we're not every week pulling float tanks out of our rooms, but when it does, the difference between pulling a float tank out and knocking a wall out or pulling the door frame off to get it through is a pretty big one.
Definitely. Seating for people going in and out of your float tanks is another big one. If you want a lobby, that's something. If you want a lobby and a post-float lounge, where people can kind of hang out just with people who've come out of floats, not with the riffraff coming in off the street, that's kind of nice.
Yeah, I mean, and we have 6 tanks now, and how many square feet? Like
So
1,600?
we have just above 1,600 square feet with
Yeah.
6 tanks, and that's still, we are on the low side of square footage for a float tank center.
And that, I mean, even that number is a bit deceptive, right? Because we have our 1,600 square foot building, but then in the parking lot behind us, we have a storage unit filled with, ranging thing like extra retail items to, extra whatever stuff that we have, supplies. Then we have another storage unit down the street in the parking lot of our office that just holds our salt. So that's where all of our salt goes. And then we have another storage area under our office in the basement. That's like another, 20 feet by 8 feet or something like that. That is full of our tools and stuff that we don't want to put in our kind of flimsy storage units.
Yep, and then up in the office, we have our actual office space where we can actually meet. We have a bunch of our reference materials and books and areas where we can use computers and printers and things like that. So, again, we get by with our float tank center with a little over 1,600 square feet. But as far as the space needed to run that float tank center, obviously it expands out actually in many directions outside of there.
So it's definitely nice. I mean, it comes with the very obvious compromise of like as soon as you have space, your income is restricted by how many float tanks you can fit into it. And so like I don't think I'd go back. Like I'm not sure I'd rebuild our space with 5 float tanks instead of 6 necessarily, even knowing what I know now, because it's just when you can put in a source of income versus making your life slightly nicer, it can be a difficult decision to make.
Yeah, and I would probably look for something a little bigger though.
Yeah.
I really like our 6 tanks that we have.
Yeah.
But the idea of having 6 tanks in a space that also has, even 400 more square feet or bringing us up to more in the 2,000 square feet region would be really nice.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's actually around what we recommend. So somewhere in the 350 square feet per float tank room that you want, assuming you're only running floats, up to around 400 square feet per float tank room is kind of the minimum that we recommend for actually having a sane life and sane storage experience in your float tank center.
Yeah, how to do it not like us.
So with a 4-tank center, what would that bring us up to? So that's about 1,400 square feet for a 4-tank center that we kind of recommend at the minimum.
With around 400 square feet a tank?
That's at 350. So and then 400 to be 1,600. So yeah, like 1,400 to 1,600 square feet in the minimum sense. So a little over 1,000. Again, we did it, and it was very uncomfortable, and we had to compromise in a lot of different places. So it is doable, but more space is definitely preferable.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, thanks for the question, and see you all tomorrow. Skidda-bap-bap-bap-a-doo out!